Hello and welcome to the We Are Birmingham podcast. I'm Chris Golding.
I'm Matthew Elliott.
And tonight we're not joined by the vegan because he's gone off to some carrot planting something or other. What is it that he's doing?
He's actually gone to a gig. He's gone to see health at the Birmingham Institute with Mr. Ivory.
What's health? They make carrots.
Healthy
carrot smoothies.
They're kind of like a, I don't know. It's kind of hard to describe because their music they're quite eclectic. It's changed over time. They're a sort of alternative rock, but they're quite of electro sound. They've done a lot of remixes and stuff for people. And you're eating ice cream, so
I am eating ice cream.
Who's the real winner here?
Cookie and ice cream. Not vegan at all.
I was very disappointed.
Just before we started recording, my darling partner decided that she was going to bring me a cookie.
Partner?
Yeah. Fiancé.
Rude.
There you go. She loves getting involved, doesn't she? There you go. I said thank you for it.
Did you?
Oh yeah, this is going to be interesting for the first few minutes. While I scarf this down. So, how have you been, mate? We've been off for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I've been ill pretty much the whole 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Whatever this is.
Life has been quite stressful and busy for me for various different reasons, but wasn't even sure whether we would be able to do this week's podcast recording. It's been obviously the last few weeks we've all sort of struggled to find the time, what with personal commitments and illnesses and whatnot. I'm all right at the moment. I've been better, but I've certainly probably been a lot worse. It's just been a strange few weeks, so looking forward to some form of normality again. You know, like Blues actually getting 3 points and stuff like that. So
We only pod when we're winning.
we only pod when we're winning, yeah. Although we'll talk about Charlton shortly. But
Yeah. So before we do get onto that, actually, when was the last time? What was the last game that we actually spoke about? I can't remember. Was it the?
Did we even speak about Huddersfield? I can't even remember if we spoke about Huddersfield.
We should probably catch up on this before we start recording, shouldn't we? Rather than have this discussion
I've barely spoken, to be honest. I know we've had very little contact actually, just from the WhatsApps of can we do it, can we not. But outside of that, it's just been quite limited. And it's been the same with like pretty much anyone outside of my other half, really. So it's been quite busy. So yeah, I think the last time would have been prior to Huddersfield. So Peterborough would have been pre-Peterborough.
Yes, I think so. Yeah. Hang on, let me check. Yes, Peterborough was the last one because Dime Dropper gave us the guest prediction for it. So Peterborough at home.
Yeah, so I didn't see that because I was in Dundee. So, but I kept up to date with it.
God, it's so long ago now.
I was very hungover on that Saturday as well. So when we went 2-0 down, I was just like, oh, this is making Saturday afternoon even worse. And then obviously we came back and I was like ready to go out again after that.
Do you know what? It was a very strange. We're going to talk about Charlton in a bit. I think there was a very strange contrast between those games. And that Peterborough game never felt like it was out of reach. Like 2-0 down, it was like, we've got this still. Like, we're in the game. We've got enough about us. And you actually felt confident.
Yeah.
It's something that I haven't felt with Blues for a very long time. That we had enough in us to go, like, not to panic. And at the end of that, I think it was after that game that Chris Davis came over, and he hasn't done the wee thing at the end, and I'm not a fan of it at away games anyway. Like, I get why they do it, and I'm not against it, but it's not for me personally. But that moment when he came over after the game, and he was just walking over, clapping, and he came over and he was like, come on.
Yeah.
And it was like pure passion just at that moment, just released. And it was, you could tell that was him just expressing that passion at the end of it. I mean, he's not short of a bit of passion, is he?
I just find him quite intense in general, like normal interviews with the press and even like the Blues post-match and pre-match press conferences. He's just quite intense. He's almost like he looks like he's always hatching up an evil plan in his brain. It's the way he smiles and nods when someone's already asking him a question. Like, I know what you're going to say here, so I've already got my answer ready for you before you finish asking the question. It's like an evil villain from something, like an evil mastermind by some. And you know what? Actually, that's fine because I can deal with that. But there's something that's quite. Let's get this right. Unlikable about him, but at the same time, you can understand why other teams, fans, or other people might dislike him. He's ours, obviously, but there's something. I think he'd just grate on me if I was an opposition. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, because that happens with players. It happens with managers. Like, look at Steve Evans. Generally, no one likes him unless he's the manager of their team. No one likes him. I wouldn't know what that was with. You know what? It's probably the Southerner thing. That's probably what it is. You're probably going that way because it's a bit.
Maybe
he's not Cockney, is he? Like north of Cockney.
Sort of, yeah.
But that sort of Londoner twang. I reckon it's that, and you're against that.
It just always just feels, because he's very. I think we've gone a bit off on a bit of a tangent here, but it's just like the way he looks direct at like the camera or the person that's interviewing when he. There's just like this real intensity in his eyes. It's like this is he's speaks with conviction and he looks with conviction, and obviously like he wants that to. If that's where he's speaking to players as well, you can understand why they would be scared to do anything wrong, because he could just like slash your throat at any given moment.
I know exactly what you're on about. I know exactly what you're on about there.
You're doing it now.
Absolutely.
But yeah, as you say, I mean, I didn't see it, but obviously very passionate about, and relieved probably after being 2-0 down.
Overly passionate. Picks up the yellow cards.
Yeah, that's another thing as well. I mean, he's probably going to pick up more and more of those throughout the season. He's probably because you don't. It's the sort of thing you don't actually want him to tone it down, do you? If that kind of makes sense.
The frustrating. So you obviously didn't watch it, but the frustrating thing for me about that moment was all he was doing was he went to fetch a ball he actually went into the Peterborough technical area.
Oh, right, okay.
And he ran over, grabbed it, picked it up and threw it to, can't remember who it was, I guess Cochrane. I think it would have been over that side. I can't even remember which half it was. But basically went to get the ball, threw it back to speed things up. Like, there shouldn't be an issue with that. But, letter of the law, you've left your technical area, yellow card. And it was just like... Now, if he'd gone over there and he was provoking them, or he was like... If he was like shoving people out of the way, absolutely, get it. But there was no issue there. And then later on, the ref booked Duncan Ferguson. Duncan Ferguson was there as well. Yeah, big dunk. No, Darren Ferguson. I think his was for stepping on the pitch. But like both incidents just seemed daft. And just, like, use your common sense. You don't need to book a manager for it. I don't know if that's something that they're clamping down a little bit on this season.
Well, I mean, we'll maybe touch on that in a bit, but the FA seems to be clamping down on a load of nonsense that probably doesn't need to be put under the microscope as much as it is at the moment. We'll come on to that in a bit, actually. Okay, are we doing it now?
Do you want to come on to it now?
Ay, send him to Cornea.
I think now's a good time.
Yeah, fair enough. So, I mean,
we're talking about it.
We'll have a chat about the Shrewsbury game in a few minutes. But yeah, Blues and Shrewsbury have been charged with failing control their players, or what was it called? A mass confrontation where the players didn't behave. You know what?
It ties in perfectly with not being allowed to leave the 6-yard box, technical area. So you can't leave your technical area, but you have to control your players.
But it seems bad. So it was sort of an improper or provocative manner. I think it was post. Scott Wright got a nasty kick or a nasty tackle. I think it was a bit of a reaction from the players from that, but it wasn't. It was absolutely nothing, and it just. I even wondered what the hell was that? And then I sort of thought back and okay, so it must have been that. So 68th minute, we looked at it. So all the bookings that started happening around then, but that was just pure. It was just what was the handbags, wasn't it? It wasn't even handbags. And did we get a charge for the one with Wrexham? Did anything happen there? Because I don't remember seeing anything from that.
Didn't see anything from it.
Was significantly much more of a mass confrontation. I think there's bigger things that the FA should be concentrating on at the moment than stuff like that. It just felt really. Are they short of money? They're just looking to find some clubs, some cash to bring. I mean, maybe Thomas Tuchel's really expensive, and they have to find a way to pay for him.
It does just seem the whole thing does just seem a bit stupid. It's I think the ref only gave out 2 yellow cards after that, or maybe 3. It wasn't like he was going around and dishing them out to everyone. And that type of thing, as a football fan. As Blues fans, we've been moaning for years that players haven't got each other's backs, and when this happens, they don't stick up for each other. The minute that they do, we get this FA charge thrown at us for failing to control the players. If anything, I think that the players were actually very controlled in what they were doing. They were supporting each other. They were sticking up for each other, and it wasn't like anyone came in throwing punches or anything. It was just grabbing at each other, pulling at each other. And it was triggered by a foul which got the same punishment as the retaliation.
Yeah.
Which, again, to me, it never makes sense.
It was quite excessive, I thought. I forgot what I was going to say then.
I thought that it had just paused.
No, there was something quite bad to say, but I'd completely forgotten. Anyway, we'll come back to that. So obviously,
is it what are the FA good for?
Absolutely nothing.
Well, or FA, sweet FA. I'd teed that up for you then.
You have to forgive me.
Hang on, let's try it again. Is it what are the FA good for?
What? I'm lost now.
I thought you were going to say sweet fuck all.
Sweet FA.
Yeah.
It's gone. It's gone. I've gone. You've gone.
I've gone.
Anyway, so that Peterborough game.
Yeah.
That Peterborough game, obviously, the opening few minutes, we had the mistake from Peacock Farrell again. And then the following game against Huddersfield, where we played pretty well and were very robust, as well as playing nice football. We had Allsop in goal, which I think everyone at the time thought that Peacock Farrell had actually been dropped, but I think it turns out now that he actually got injured against Peterborough, didn't he, as well? Or at least that's what Chris Davies has said.
So he went down against Peterborough in the first half, and it was after the mistake. And to be honest with you, it looked as if it was that could be his opportunity to go, oh, I've had a mare there. Like, I'm injured, take me off. And it would have been prime time to have done it. He was going to spend the second half in front of Peterborough fans that were going to give him shit at every opportunity. Actually did all right in the second half with that on his back. So, but yeah, like when he went down, it was like, is this like him just sort of going, oh, I'm injured? I'm not going to lie, I called for him after that. I thought that was probably a change was needed. I thought that was probably one mistake too many. Whether that was a change of keeper or whether it's still his place, I mean, has Allsop done anything worthy of being dropped?
Not yet, but you wouldn't say. I mean, in the games we've watched him playing, I wouldn't say he's looked particularly solid. I think there's a concern over crosses and just general command.
I think that's with both keepers, though.
There is. I mean, I said this before, didn't I? When we signed both of them, is that it's probably our weakest area for different reasons. Allsop as well. He seems to go, and I said this pre-season, his need, or he always feels a need to go long with diagonal balls quite a lot. We've seen it quite excessively against Charlton. Now, I saw a lot of people pointing towards their really, really high press and the fact that they essentially man-marked Peake and Iwata out of the game. That I don't buy that. I can understand you doing it every now and then, but Allsop is that good with his feet, and we've seen him play shorter passes, and you've got the back four there as well to pass to. There's always going to be some way to play through, and I'm surprised Chris Davies didn't say anything post match presser around this constant need to go long. It was getting quite frustrating, and then you start to see some of the players go long as well.
Part of me was wondering against Charlton whether it was tactical, because in the first half it looked like we were constantly trying to maybe even catch them out on their higher press to try and get us in behind, and it looked like a few times like that might have been a ploy. It didn't work. It
absolutely never worked. And you know, he always goes on about as well, you got to keep doing the things that we're good at, the things that we practice in training. Like, just it's all that thing that Tony Moby used to say about like the repetition of doing. Like, there was none of that. The identity of the team, although we still had a fairly high possession rate, which surprised me by the end of the game. Like, there didn't really feel like there was anything there, and you have to worry that Charlton have almost created like a blueprint for other teams to try and copy. It might have just been an off day for us.
I do think that there was
really frustrating.
I think, whilst you're right in what you were saying that Charlton did set up well, I don't think that there was anything that we should have been fearful about. Like them pressing high and pressing quickly isn't something that we should be concerned about. We've played against it. We played against Albion in pre-season and coped with it perfectly fine, and they're one of the better teams in the Championship at it.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, it should. If someone wants to do that, it should probably suit us, because you want to try and play sort of break through the lines.
Yep.
You know, that's the way he set us up to play. Now, okay, they were very, very intense, and they kept up. They were probably, let's be fair, they're the fittest team that we've played this season. I personally, they matched us for fitness, and probably even more so. And looking back at it, should we have maybe mixed it up a little bit, changed the squad a little bit, just to keep a bit of freshness in the team? But
before we talk about that, actually, about changes and should they have been made, you make a good point there on Charlton being very fit, because I think it's like in our group chat that we were in, people were talking about it and saying, oh, they won't be able to keep this up for 90 minutes. They won't be able to keep this up. it like 60 minutes and they'll start faltering, and they didn't. They coped with it fine.
We looked tired.
Yeah. So
Even when we made subs, we looked tired.
Coming on to our changes now, this probably isn't going to be a popular one. I've said it to you guys. For me, so the midfield too, I think looked a bit leggy. They were constantly pressed as soon as they received the ball. Yep. The one that I think won't be popular, and it's not a purposeful one, it was just from watching the game something that seemed to stick out to me, was that Jay Stansfield looked very jaded. Not unfit, not tired, just like not quite at it. And with the changes being made around him, and it was almost like he got moved around so that he could stay on the pitch.
It's a case. It felt a bit like a case of, well, he's our £50 million player. We're gonna keep him on, and you would like to think that the coaching staff, Chris Davis, has a bit more about him than doing that. And it's one of the things that concerned me a little bit when we signed him, is there going to be this
undroppable,
this need just to keep him in the team, or pressure from above. I don't think there's pressure from above to do that, but is there some? I don't want to say.
What I'll say is, I think maybe that you could expect a reaction. If we're 1-0 down and we take Stansfield off, you could expect a reaction from the fans that it won't go down well, and I completely get it from that. But so maybe there's something thinking, well, there's every chance that he'll come up with something, that he'll come up with a moment of magic, and we'll keep the fans on side if we keep him on the pitch, and we won't sort of frustrate them. But for me, in that game, it just like touches and turns, and he just didn't seem at it.
Nothing came off, and I'll say this, like I know he scored. I know May scored the winner against Huddersfield, and it came from a Stansfield pass. But I'm still not buying this sort of like trying to fit them both in the team at the same time. I think I'd rather have a little bit more balance to the side, and sometimes I don't think I would have taken May off on Saturday. I think I would have taken Stansfield off and put May through the middle, where he is, let's be fair, most effective. We've seen it as him being most effective there. He's been most effective at Cheltenham when he went through the middle, most effective at Charlton when he went through the middle. He doesn't score and create as many chances when he's pushed out elsewhere, and there's an element there where I just think it kind of, they're good, they're all good players, but I just think you need to get that sort of balance and dynamic up front right, and if that means dropping somebody or having someone on the bench and then coming off the bench later in the game, so be it. I mean, we've got the whole squad is like that now. There are players that aren't even getting in the squad until we play Shrewsbury or Warsaw or what will be Fulham under 21s. So I think they need to have a think about what they're doing up front there as well, because I'm not convinced how they're currently setting up is beneficial to the team.
No, I agree. I think with the way that the squad that we've got, you look at it at the start of the season, we've got 2 players for every position. We could put out 1-11 one week, one next. Now, I know you want that continuity and you want to keep a steady flow of performances, I suppose, and not pick and change it too much. But then you look at the Shrewsbury game where there were changes and played some of the best football that we've played, like attacking football that we've seen all season.
Absolutely. And it was good to see them bounce back from the defeat, because it was always going to be important how we responded. I know the squad or the team was quite different to the one that played on Saturday. There was about 5 changes, was there, altogether? But it was still, I mean, obviously it was still very good players, but the cohesiveness and just like the passages of play, and as you say, some of the football was probably the best football we played this season. And we got the goal early and didn't take our foot off the gas either.
And that result that I've predicted for the last God knows how many seasons, and it's never come off. It's finally come off.
And it's obviously there's a few people there that have probably put their name in the frame for this Saturday, which we'll get onto towards the end, because what with internationals this week, last week, this week, I think we're bound to see a handful of changes in that squad, and I think there's obviously a couple of injuries there as well that means that we might have a few players that are going to be missing. Obviously, Bielik went down with an ankle injury against Charlton, or at least to me it looked like it was an Achilles. As soon as he went down, this is the first thing I thought, and I think I messaged it in the group to you guys that looks like an Achilles. Not necessarily a tear, but it's just the way he was grimacing and the way he was being helped off the field. And then when they came back, so it's an ankle injury. I was like, well, okay, so how long is he going to be out for? It says it's going to be a few weeks, but they haven't really put anything definitive on it, have they? So that's going to be a big miss.
Have they done a use this?
Yeah, he hasn't really said he's a couple of weeks away, but he just said it'll be a few weeks out. And his initial comment was it doesn't look good. Obviously, Sanderson is back, who looked quite good on Tuesday against Shrewsbury, and Ben Davies looked okay. He does some weird things, Ben Davies. It's almost like he just switches off at times. And the problem is Sanderson does that as well. Okay, but there was just a couple, even against Shrewsbury, there was a couple of times where he just let the ball wander across him, and it was like he just was a little bit sort of sleepy.
Well, there was the one chance that they had where. Was it the Shrewsbury game?
Allsop had given it away, and then Sanderson had to clear it off the line. But then that was between Sanderson, Allsop, and Davies. There was a bit of a balls up there.
I didn't get to watch most of Shrewsbury, so I'd got a ticket for it, but the ticket didn't turn up. So
shame they weren't waiting outside with
a table. Yeah.
Welcome to that one later on as well. It bothers you more than it bothers me, obviously. But.
What you mean being the first name on it? First name on the list.
You were actually top of the list. They were like that guy, that golden guy from the.
Do you know why it was?
Wow podcast.
It's because I've put out on social media and I've said, well, I can understand it. This might not be the best way of doing it. Well, we'll talk about it in a bit, but it's because I put my name down. I volunteered myself essentially, but no. So I got back. My ticket wasn't there, so it was too late to arrange to get a reprint. So watched a bit of it at home. Missed the first 4-0 in God knows how long. Great.
I had peace and quiet in the house. Everyone was in bed. Nice and early. My other half was doing her master's degree stuff, and I was just like, yeah, it's just great. Just sit here, watch the game, winning. Like the one thing that did bother me was the commentator in, I think it was the Shrewsbury game, or it might have been the Charlton game, on iFollow or whatever they Sky Plus use, sounded a lot like. Is it Justin Fletcher, Mr. Tumble?
Really?
If anyone's listening, they'll know who they're like. If they watched the same as I did, just like, I couldn't get it out of my head.
If they've watched Mr. Tumble, or
he was just. Well, I think
stream?
everyone knows who he is, don't they? Pretty much, but it's a very I couldn't get it once I twigged what he sounded like. I couldn't get it out of my.
So now you've just done that for everyone else.
Yeah, I've ruined it because it's that guy that solo commentates, so you don't have the other commentator with them. They just solo commentate and just chat shit in between the really boring bits.
Oh really? Was there no co-commentator?
No, it's one of those that they always have a solo commentator. I think it's
it was Tommy Mooney on the. It was Tommy Mooney on the Shrewsbury game. Oh, that would have been Blues TV though, wouldn't it?
That would have been Blues TV, yeah. So I think it was the Sky Plus, whatever they do now. I'm pretty sure it was Shrewsbury game. It might have been Charlton, which would have been iFollow, I suppose. But Yeah. Anyway,
So before did you have anything else that you wanted to?
no, I don't think
touch
so. I
on
mean,
about
we
them games?
kind of wrapped up a few games that we haven't spoken about, and I'm sure most people had forgotten about those games. It was disappointing to lose against Charlton, but just to see the team bounce back very quickly and in such a good manner against Shrewsbury was really important, and it was good to see.
Do you know what else was good about that as well? The post-match interview for Chris Davis to be open and honest about everything and very straight talking, but not overly critical, if that makes sense. Not like to completely lose people on side. Basically, just actual home truths, and it's like, well, it wasn't good enough. We need to be better than that. We need to do this, and not to, like I say, not to throw people under the bus, not to like get people offside. It's the opposite to onside, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure that is the same, but I know what you mean.
Not
anyway,
to not have people onside.
I'm sure we all know what you mean.
Yeah. But yeah, that for me was like, it was good to see. That was a challenge for him, because we've not had it easy, but we've won games. We hadn't lost up until that point. The whole undefeated thing, the whole 1-3-6 points until
I've changed it to 1-3-3.
You have. So again, for people who can't see or don't know what we're on about, when we join our studio here, we put our name in, and Chewy puts 1-3-6 points normally, so 1-3-3 at the moment. But yeah, so we're going to have to be undefeated at home, aren't we, rather than just undefeated in the league. But to take all of that and to go, right, I've got a challenge on my hand now. I've got to get these players back up for it. I've got the Shrewsbury game. We'll get back into it. And they did, and convincingly. So
very convincingly, yeah. I mean, Shrewsbury I thought they were quite poor, and then on the Saturday they went and smashed somebody 5-2. Was it Crawley? Did they beat Crawley 5-2 on the Saturday? I think they were 2-0 down at one point or something like that. They certainly came from behind, but yeah, it was a convincing win.
Like that tackle on Scott Wright.
We've got sorry, my cat has just entered the room, so he could appear any second now. He is here. He is.
There's a tail.
Hello.
But
that was my cat, not me making the funny noise here. He's it's very impressive. So where do we go next?
The other thing that I wanted to talk about while we're talking about those games was the Huddersfield game.
Mm-hmm.
I was invited down to St Andrews and to the new community hub that they've opened just a few 100 metres away, maybe not even a few 100 metres, 90 metres away or something from the stadium behind the Gilmerick. I don't know why I was selected other than being on the podcast. I don't know if it was because of the stuff that I'd done for the run earlier in the year. But yeah, they invited a selection of us to go and have a look at what they're doing with the foundation, what they're doing at the community hub. Is that your tail or is that your cat?
My cat is. Sorry.
Yeah. Went down and sort of had a look at what was going on, have a look at the new community hub. And it was, what they're doing there is fantastic. When we turned up, Gary Cook was there, so to introduce everything, and part of me was a little bit, are we going to get sold the whole sales thing for the whole day that we're here, or the whole evening? But to be fair to him, he sort of introduced it and then took a back seat. The people that I spoke to that are involved in it, the staff, are all absolutely buzzing now, because the foundation had, and I spoke about it before when we did the open house, and how good Ant and Jedi had done, keeping things going with very little budget and having to. For people that are listening and not watching, a cat has just been moved across the screen
again for the second time.
I'm
going to have to put him out of the room in a minute.
But yeah, sort of hearing them talk about how what a difference it makes with Blues being involved as a club and as the owners being involved and the board to support what the foundation are doing. And it was brilliant to see, like, helping take. Do you want to put the cat out?
Give you a second, right?
If you enjoy our podcast, please don't forget to like, share and comment on social media.
And if the podcast platform allows it, please rate and review us.
Cheers, guys.
Right, so you're back now. Are you ready? Yeah,
I am back. Yeah,
right, that's good. But yeah, so hearing what the guys who work for the foundation say about having the club supporting them is fantastic. Having what they've set up there now with the foundation, in having refugees coming down to people who wouldn't have that sense of a sporting community, and they're picking people up in minibuses, bringing them into the community hub, giving them football training for an hour or so. On the Huddersfield game, they took them to the first ever football match that they'd been to, which was fantastic. They're doing stuff in and around the local community in terms of, like, warm space, helping people apply for jobs, because how do you apply for jobs if you haven't got the internet when there's so many places that you have to apply for jobs online? Just all these different things that they're doing to help the community are fantastic, and warm places. And I think a lot of it is within mind that if you can get the local community members that maybe had no interest in football or have an interest in football but not with the local team, they don't feel welcome at Blues, so they support Arsenal, Liverpool, Man United, Man City, the big teams. Then instead of them going off and supporting those teams, they might support the team that is on the doorstep, that they actually start feeling a connection with.
Yep.
That they get invited to games and they go to see them. And I think that what they're doing, they've realised that as we're moving forward with this super stadium that we'll come on to shortly, no doubt, is that they can.
If I can't get a train there, Chris, I'm not going.
You can walk.
Yeah. It's only 12 minutes.
Yeah. But I think they've realised that in that area there's a huge market of people. If we have a 60,000 seater, if we have a 60-seater stadium, if we have a 60,000 seater stadium, we need more fans to fill it.
Mm-hmm.
Birmingham is a big populated city with people in the area who we could tap into to come and watch the games, get them on side.
Yeah.
So I think what they're doing is a fantastic initiative, and like, I love that the club are supporting them. They're not just going to plough money into it; they can't afford to. So there's going to be lots of sponsorship things and fundraising. Help out if you can. I'm going to help out if I can. Do what you can, because it's a great initiative, I think, from the club, and the guys that have run it from day one have done a fantastic job, and they're now starting to see some rewards.
Yeah.
So, well, not day one, but you know what I mean. Through all the shit times where they had no support. After that, after going around the community hub, I was then invited to hospitality for the evening. I might as well address it while I'm on it. Wasn't 100% sure. Asked you guys whether I should take it, because I'm not sure that it completely sits right with me accepting freebies and stuff. So I asked you guys, because I originally was like, don't think I'm going to go. I don't know. I can't explain why, but it just doesn't feel right. Did go. Had a few beers. Had a nice meal. Walked out to go out to my seat, and there was a lady that was in there, and she'd only ever been in the Alliance, and she was like, as we were walking out, she went, "They don't even give you a blanket down here." I was like, oh, right, I'm going down to my seat, straight down to safe standing. I was like, you're right, lads. Like, weren't you supposed to be up there? I was like, no, I'm up there, but I've got to come down here. So went up for my my free half-time pint. Went back down for the second half. But no, it was like I'll make a donation to the foundation for that. As I always do, as I have with the open houses and stuff. I'm not going to say I'm going to make the full amount of what a hospitality ticket would be, but it was it was nice to be invited. I'm going to like hold my hands up and say that I got invited to it, and I did go. And yeah, it was the foundation stuff was great, and I hope that We Are Birmingham are going to do more on it soon. Can't say too much, but hopefully there'll be something that we go into about that. Anyway, International Investment Summit.
Yeah, it's no. So I've not really been on social media much recently, so as some people probably would have noticed, but obviously there was a bit of hysteria yesterday, maybe should we say, after Tom Wagner's comments, which I think were a little bit misconstrued as well. So obviously,
I'll tell you what was more concerning.
Go on, his shirt and tie combo. Yeah, that was a bit of a I mean, you just be
Do they say faux pas?
Yeah, it is. It maybe like the camera plays tricks. We don't know if like that was actual. Could have been an honest.
It was a
mistake.
pink. It was a pink tie.
A pink and baby blue shirt, I think it was. So
Salmon.
obviously, there we go. So there's obviously a lot of reaction to his comments online around him saying that. Well, he said that it will go ahead, but it will be difficult if we don't get the government don't improve the transport links. But the way it was
ITV's tweet essentially said it won't happen.
It will only go ahead if the government improves the transport links. There's two things, right? So obviously they've misconstrued that, but the amount of people that jumped on it. I mean, let's just address the Blues fans that said, oh, okay, that's him backtracking. It's not obviously not going to happen. That's him now setting out his stall to like, if it doesn't happen, it was all pie in the sky sort of stuff. Obviously, a lot of opposition fans have been doing similar, but from a point of view of like, I think a lot of them don't believe anyway. But let's just take a step back just for a minute and think, like, is there any possibility that this is just really Wagner applying some pressure in the national media just to sort of, push the people, because they are going to need help from certain quarters. You don't just magic $3 billion out of your backside to do this. There are things that need to happen around that. Obviously, needs to happen around that, and they'll pull on everything they can do. This is what he's good at. This is what he's essentially good at doing. He's just gone out into the media to apply some pressure. It's just a bit of gamesmanship, really. Yep. Now, Blues fans, opposition fans,
mentioning the planning as well, the stuff about the planning. For me, that was like they've already. It felt to me anyway. I don't know any of this, but it felt like we've tried doing something in the planning department, and it hasn't. Like, we're getting a bit of pushback on it for certain things. So let's go out there and we'll apply a bit of pressure without saying what's happened. That's how it felt to me.
You don't go out there and buy. How much did they spend on that land? Was it like 50 million quid for wheels or something? I don't know if it's that much, but I mean it's irrelevant. They don't go out and just spend all that money on essentially something that is wasteland. If you haven't already got investors and people that are backing you to support. You can probably see a cat's tail just whipped around my face again. Obviously, planning with all the job creations that will come with the sports quarter and everything else they're going to have down there. Like, it is in the best interest of not only the city but the actual whoever the government will be in. Let's say it happens in 5-6 years time, because obviously things could change by that point. It's only going to make that government at the time look better if we're creating 1,000, 2,000 jobs across the city. It makes sense for the government, local councils to have a bit of focus on, if it is transport links, and it'll be more beyond that. It won't just be isolated to transport links. I think that was just a comment that was used to obviously, what's the word? I mean, it was a bit of clickbait, really, essentially from ITV, wasn't it? But I mean, the Birmingham City project, their wider picture, the wider goal, is only going to work if we move into a larger stadium. So it's going to happen no matter what. This is just a little bit of, what did Dan Ivory call it? Megaphone diplomacy, which applying that pressure, just trying to do sort of almost negotiating with the adjacent parties. I think people need to just chill out a little bit and just let things play out. They are going to build this one way or another. Now, what it looks like, whether it looks like the original plans they've laid down or that the ideas of it down, is irrelevant at this point in time. But they've obviously got a bigger goal than just the club itself. There's obviously stuff they want to lay their mark down in the city. So, new contracts. So some surprising, or maybe two more surprising than one. I don't know.
I thought one was surprising, one was really positive, and one was okay.
So I'm gonna say your really positive one was Peck.
Yep.
Your surprising one was Anderson.
Yep.
And the other one was Laird.
Yep. Yeah. So I think the Anderson one was, for me, I think it was a sort of comfort blanket for Blues. It was like, it's probably relatively cheap. He's done a decent job this season. Granted, there's not always an end product with him, so he's not one of the stronger players in that attacking lineup, but he's done a job. He's done a good job. He's performed okay, and ultimately, it's probably not on big wages. So, if assuming we go up and there's not a space for him, we might get a bit of money back for him.
I think there's an element of that. I also think that Chris Davies actually quite likes him. I think he trusts him. I think it's quite important to have someone around that you trust. What you get out of him is, like, we know he's can be a little bit susceptible to injuries, which I think a lot of people are quite concerned about. But he works extremely hard. He can play in multiple positions, both wings. Playing a 10, can actually play deeper if needed.
We said a few weeks ago as well, like how strong he's looked this season in terms of his fitness, his stamina. Like the fact that last season it was like 50-60 minutes he was done. And
credit to the coaching staff and the sports science team for that as well. Obviously the club have putting things in place that's probably helped contribute to that. He looks massively better, but I think beyond that, I don't think he gets the credit he deserves as an actual footballer, because he's got a really, really good footballing brain. I think if he was maybe like half a yard,
that back heel at Shrewsbury,
yeah, that's really good. But he's very, very tidy. He links play quite nicely. He's always available for the ball. The one thing that I think he does lack is that yard or two of pace, or that half yard of pace, as people used to call it. He probably needs a little bit more than that, and I think he'd be a really, really dangerous player. Yes, okay, he can let you down in that final third sometimes, but I think actually you've got someone that's been on that journey with the club, if you want. I've used that twice now, haven't I? You've got someone that's been there through the whole of last season as well. Chris Davies obviously likes him, trusts him, plays him. He's played in most games. He's been bringing him on, or if he hasn't started, he's come on at some point. I quite like it, and as you say, that if they do want to bring someone else in that's better than him next season, which is highly possible, and they want to move him on, they can get a bit of money for him, and that's fair enough. And what we've also done here with him is, we're not putting ourselves in a position where we have to go out and replace next season, because we've basically got a full squad we can carry through. There's no one going to be out. No one significant is going to be out of contract.
Yep.
I like it. Would we like to see more end product from him? Yes, but at the same time, I think there's so much more he does off the ball and in the build-up and passages of play that I think makes him just equally as important. And I think a lot of people sometimes can look beyond that. We spoke about Emil Hansen being a bit of a system player. Well, Anderson is a bit of a system player as well. He will do a job for you in 3 or 4 positions. I think that's quite important in the way we play.
Just to go off topic briefly there, Hansen probably had his best game for us
Tuesday.
I think.
No, it wasn't. Tuesday he came off the bench and scored, didn't he?
Yeah.
Are we talking Huddersfield?
I think it might have been. I can't remember if it was Huddersfield or Peterborough. It was that long ago, but no.
It must have been Huddersfield, was it, or was it Peterborough?
It could have been Peterborough.
I wasn't watching. I didn't watch Peterborough.
I can't
remember.
They've all merged into one. I can't remember. But yeah, sorry, I've gone off.
Over 2 weeks ago now. So
I know, it's so long ago.
So obviously Peck. Really pleasing there. I think we've probably protected ourselves a little bit because we had a lot of interest, and there's obviously been a bit of convincing. There's probably an element of him that was like, does he want to go? And him being called up to the national team has probably played a big part in him staying as well, because I think that was probably, it's probably in the back of his mind.
He's got called up after.
Yeah, no, but I would imagine there were conversations before that. If he's in constant contact with the coach there to say that, will I do my international chances harm if I stay in this league? And if they say, well, no, look, basically look at the way we're playing, we're probably going to go up this season, we'll be in the Championship, and crack on, Peck.
So for me, I think that with the other 2 contracts, so with Laird and with Peck, there's an element of, you've stuck around, you've bought into what we've told you when we've been relegated. You haven't gone, I want out.
Yep.
So we're going to reward you. We can reward you. We're going to reward you. And however, we don't know the details of that, obviously, but I think that there's an element of, it's people found it surprising. I just think it's a thank you for sticking with us. Here's a reward.
But let's not. I mean, again, Chris Davies loves him. He talks about him a fair bit, and he's integral to the way we play. He is really, really important. By miles, he is by miles better than any Barnsley midfielder you've ever seen in your entire path. So.
Absolutely. My point more is that I don't think he hadn't got a release clause, as far as we know, in his contract.
But he has now.
I mean, it's 99 million, but
it's one of those mad Spanish ones they always put in.
The buyout clause. They have to put them in Spain. That's why.
That's correct. Yeah, that's why some of them have absolutely wild buyout clauses.
5 billion. But yeah, I think if you look at the transfer window closed, we kept him. We held on to him. He stuck around.
Despite lots of interest all summer as well from Championship and abroad.
So I don't think that January is going to bring a whole, or would have brought a whole different side to transfers anyway. The transfer fee that we requested might have been higher, if there was any, like whatever figure we put on it might have been higher. But I can't see how that would have swayed it. So for me, I think a lot of it is just a reward. It's a thank you for sticking with us. And I think it might have even been promised at the time, look, stick with us, we'll give you a new contract.
But I think they have to. There has to be buy-in from both sides, isn't there? And I think from my point of view, he obviously enjoys playing the way we're playing. He's thriving in it. You can't really. Okay, you could ask more from. You could ask him for some goals, but he's really, really important to the way we play. He can dictate the tempo of the game.
Turn around to him and say, "See what Iwata's doing? Just go and do some of that.
Just go and do that. Just why aren't you player of the month? Go and sort it out. Give me that contract back." It's been really impressive, and the partnership with Iwata there has obviously just gone from apart from the Charlton game, has gone from strength to strength. That's probably needed a rest.
I still think the fact that Leonard can't get into this team, where so many people,
he should have been on that Saturday against Charlton a lot.
For me, he probably should have started.
Yeah,
but
I mean, looking in hindsight, yes, I think we all said that because the players all look tired. I mean, we could go on about that for weeks, and I think we might see him start on Saturday as it is, but. Laird then, quickly. I was very disappointed with some of the reaction I saw about Laird signing this contract online and I think I've already said it on here tonight because I can't remember what we may have edited or not, what edited or not edited, but I've not really been on social media that much, so to see some of the comments about him on that sort of people were like, oh, why are we signing him? He was part of the problem that that took us down. We've literally just signed Anderson and Peck to a contract as well. Bielik signed a contract in the summer. Not all players are bad apples, and he, for by all accounts, I think he's actually vice captain, isn't he, behind Bielik? I don't think that's been officially announced, but I'm sure that is actually the case. So obviously played extremely well in those first few games, stuck around, worked really hard during the summer, got injured again, which is a problem. Like, we know that again it's a problem. He needs to try and stay fit. It is a concern.
On that though, it was impact injury, wasn't it? So all they need to do is not rush him back, and at the moment with Gardner Hickman and with Samstead. There's perfect cover, so they haven't got to rush him back when he's fit.
Back on the grass though, isn't he? So he's
couple of weeks away.
He's probably getting closer to be back in the squad again.
But whereas last season it was like, is he fit? Can we get him back in? We don't need to do that now. We don't have to rush him in.
No.
So there's not that pressure on him. So hopefully that will help with the injury as well. Because he's had an impact injury now. If you rush him back from it and his muscles aren't ready for it, then he gets a muscle injury and he's out for another couple of weeks. And
I think we said before, like, I know again his end product leaves a little to be desired sometimes, but I think that can and will be worked on. You don't forget, like, he's still fairly young as well. He's not some veteran that's been around the block a number of times. He's still quite young, but he is quite important to the way that we play and move the ball forward. And obviously, without the injury, Taylor Gardner-Hickman probably wouldn't have played at right back. So I think there's probably an element there that, we've actually, it's given him a chance to probably play more games than he would have. I'm all for it again. We've locked someone else up that's got potential. The squad is quite a lot of depth to the squad. Yeah. So
he seems like he's one of the players with a cracking personality as well, and he's like a good head on him. And so people got a little bit wound up last season by the fact that he was like that we lost games and. He was still smiling, smiling and joking, and stuff,
carrying his Gucci bag and that.
And it's like, I think we addressed it at the time as well.
We did. It bothers me that it bothers me
that it bothers
I actually
people.
Get bothered about myself being bothered by the fact that that sort of thing bothers people. Like, you're looking too deep into stuff. I mean, like, people say it's bad optics or whatever, and it might be, but. It's not that deep sometimes, but as you say, he's a smiley, happy-go-lucky guy.
I'm going to tell you something now about the internet. if you look too deep, and at the moment on Twitter, that's like not deep at all. It's like the first little scrape. So there was a tweet on Twitter that a wedding photographer had taken where he'd got the groomsman to throw the groom up in the air and the bride was in front, and he did the groom went up and did this Superman pose, like, well, not Superman but another superhero sort of flying above him, and it was a great picture, and people managed to have negative comments on that and say, oh, it's not very good, is it, because it's not really a true reflection of the day, it's a bit forced. And it's just like, that's the internet for you. People will find negatives. So the FA Cup draw the other night, and some virgins decided that they wanted to go and taunt Sutton United with who the fuck are you and whatever else, and it's like,
Was that the ones that actually knew who Sutton United were and realised that we weren't actually playing Sutton Coldfields in the first round of the FA Cup?
I think it's Sutton Coldfield Town, isn't it?
I mean, come on now. On that note, I was actually hoping we got Harborough Town, because Market Harbour is not far from where I used to live in England, in Corby. I used to go to a gym in Market Harbour actually, but I know a couple of guys that play for them. So I was just like, oh, please get Harborough Town, because they beat Bury. They beat Bury in the last qualifying round to get into. I think this is the furthest they've ever gone.
Beat who?
They Bury. You know, yeah, they're still a team.
Bury?
Yes, yeah.
Do you mean Bury?
No, I call them Bury.
Well, I hope we never play them, because that's weird.
They're back at their stadium again now with the Neville
Gig Lane,
where the Neville stand is.
Gig Lane. I've played there. With Wab.
I watched Northampton Town play there. In fact, it was the Vegans Stag Do.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I don't know why we were supposed to have.
Did you have him as mascot on the pitch with shoes?
No.
On?
So what happened is this. Again, we're going off on a tangent. We were supposed to go to Man City versus West Brom in the Premier League, but due to Champions League commitments, Man City, it got moved to like the Monday or something, or a following week or a week in future. So they still wanted to go to a football match, so we went to Northampton Town against
Bury.
Yes,
Borough
at Gig Lane.
Borough.
And who was it? James Vaughan scored
for Bury.
Actually, yeah, I think it was like. Did he score a hat trick? He may have scored a hat trick. I can't remember. Obviously, it was his post in playing for us. But anyway. What were we saying? We were talking. It was social media, wasn't it? We were talking about Ethan Laird, but I think we're done there anyway. I'm happy with those contracts. I think it puts us in a nice position for next season.
Yeah, agreed. Lincoln?
Yes, Lincoln.
Should we talk about the away ticket situation?
I mean, you talk about the away ticket situation because it affects you more. My away games per season are limited to about 1, maybe 0 now, if I can't get someone's ticket. So, oops, did I say that? I can't put my fake glasses and beard on.
Are they new glasses, by the way? Are they still?
No, they're my old glasses. My Jerry Adams ones are here. So
doubling up,
double glasses.
Oh, you just had them on top. That's very weird. That's very
that
strange.
Weird. I don't
League
like that.
of Gentlemen stuff.
That
is.
This is a local club for local people.
Yeah, it was. It's something that I think anyone who goes to away games is probably aware that it's not perfect. The situation with away tickets isn't perfect. I myself, my situation changes right up until match day sometimes of whether I can go or not. Family commitments and whether childcare can be arranged, whether my missus is working. But I can't. So my situation then is, do I buy a ticket when it comes out and not be able to go? Do I not buy a ticket and just not go? I go to more than I don't. have I helped people out in the past who have come round begging for a ticket? Yes, I have. I hold my hands up to that. And I know Vegan says you're part of the problem, and I get it completely. I get the need to clamp down on it, because especially this season, because because of how things are. I don't think the way that the ticket office is run, or is being run, has been run up until this point, that we're in the right place to be doing it at the moment. I think that the email that I got through the other day essentially said, we're going to have a table set up opposite the away end. We'll be there from 90 minutes before. Now, you go to an away game, 90 minutes before, that's your pub time. Sort of 12-ish, you'll get to the pub, up till 2, half 2, when you go and get into the ground. So for me, my thinking was, why have they not arranged something so that you can go and get your ticket at 12 o'clock from like 11, 12? Why are they only 90 minutes? That's for a situation that they're creating for a number of fans.
Or why not, a 90-minute period from up to kickoff, or like 50 minutes before kickoff, or half an hour before kickoff, as opposed to, so you've got a window you can collect, and you don't, because that 90-minute thing is like, there's going to be people queuing for those, it just feels pretty ludicrous. That's
everyone's day. Is you go to an away game, it's part of the culture, football culture. Not everyone, but a large number of people, even people that don't drink, will go and meet people in pubs. They'll drive there and they'll go and chat to people. It's about meeting up with people. Now, I think the away pub for this game on Saturday is 20 minutes ish from 20 minutes away from the ground. So if you get to the pub at 12 o'clock, then 90 minutes before the game, you've got to go to the ground, collect your ticket. Do you then go into the ground, or do you go back to the pub to then go back to the ground again? That's an hour backwards and forwards. Do you go to the ground last minute before the game, which they've said, please don't do that? Or do you leave the pub earlier than you would do? It's like, for me, it's just that time. So my suggestion would have been, like, rather than at this stage where, and this is if the tickets even turn up, because it wouldn't surprise me if there's like, oh, we haven't got your ticket. I'll probably be one of them. We'll see how it goes. I know they're not doing it with large numbers at the moment as well, so hopefully it all goes smoothly. The thing that I would have suggested to do, why don't you give people all the tickets, get stewards that are checking people for ID, tell everyone they need to take ID with them, check people as they're queuing up, say, right, have you got your away ticket? Yes. Take a photo of it, got the client reference written on it, as in write them on before you send them out. Have you got ID with you? No. Okay, I'm going to take a picture of you. You compare that picture to the client reference number that you've got on the system, or if they've got ID, you take a picture of their ID. You get them to basically to send the ID in afterwards to prove who they are. Does it compare to the picture? No. Or you've got a picture of their ID on the day and you can compare it. You then send out warnings afterwards. This wasn't yours. That's a yellow card for you on your away status. At the moment, with how things structurally are in the ticket office, I would have taken a different route. But I'll give feedback next week on how it goes.
I think it's just a case of, I know what they're doing. It doesn't affect me that much, but I understand why they're doing it. And I think, like, as you said, you've said that as well. You understand why they're doing it. But I think there must be a slicker and better way of doing it. I mean, what do other clubs do? What do other clubs do?
Your Man Uniteds and whatever.
Who always take a very large following away, or do they care about, you know, where the ticket ends up essentially?
Isn't there something about Man United fans that half of their season ticket holders are dead, and the families have just kept the season tickets going? I know that's not away games, but
it could be true. I don't actually know, but I mean they've always had a very good away following, but obviously they've got a huge fan base, which is different to us. Anyway, should we?
Hopefully it all goes well and goes straight forward, and there's not a problem. I think it's just a bit of an inconvenience the way that they've gone around it, but I get it.
They'll probably can it in a few weeks or something when it's an absolute disaster, and they'll try and rethink something.
But we'll see.
They'll probably start sending tickets out with your face on, with a photo of your face on.
I mean, the away turnstiles aren't going to care.
No.
You've got a ticket, you'll go in.
It's also true, yeah. So they start doing biometric tickets where they just scan your eyes or something, or you'd have to do a fingerprint. Again,
away grounds aren't going to care.
Not in League One, they're not. Are they?
No. Well, anyway, I don't think away grounds will care, will they?
Yeah, I know. It's taking the piss.
Yeah, I know. But it's on it, like, because you could say you can use your season ticket card. You could use that, and you can connect that to it. But again, away games. But I don't know what the overall solution is, or I don't know what it is to improve.
Yeah,
it.
Don't moan about it unless you've got a solution, Chris.
I'm not even trying to moan about it. I'm like, I get why, and I've put a solution forward that no one likes. So we'll move on.
Let's move on.
I'll give feedback next week on how it was.
Lincoln, then.
Yeah.
What are we saying? Have we got a Lincoln fan? Have we got anything from Blues Breakdown? Have we got anything?
We haven't got anything from Ben from Blues Breakdown because he was in London, and I only asked him.
That's no excuse.
No, he was in London working. So no, we haven't. We have got a Lincoln fan. I don't know his name. So while this is playing, I'm going to try and find his name. But from the Stacey West podcast, I don't know what Stacey West is. Is that like a stand in Lincoln or something? Anyway, let's see what he's got to say.
So my thoughts on Lincoln's season so far are that we're performing above expectation. We've had a really good start to the season. We've only lost one league game, which was against Barnsley, a game arguably we should have won. We thought we had a relatively easy start to the season in terms of the teams that we were set to play, but teams like Peterborough, Stevenage, Mansfield, Barnsley are up and around it, so we've actually had a reasonable start in terms of results. I think there's a lot more to come. We're a relatively new squad, 13 new players in the summer, 12 of which I think have now made appearances for us, so there was a lot of settling in, I think, to be done. But I feel that we're beginning to hit our stride a little bit, and I think that we're in a really good position to kick on. My expectations and hopes for the season, I would love us to finish inside the top 6, obviously. I think at the beginning of the season we would have taken top 10. League One this season is very different to last season. The landscape is very different, and I think you can take a small step forward this season but actually finish further down the table with teams like Birmingham, Huddersfield, Wrexham and Stockport entering the division at different ends, all of whom have raised the quality, perhaps raised the spending limit a little bit as well. So my expectations were top 10. I think after the start we've had, and we've seen most teams now, I watch quite a bit of League One football, so I've seen most teams in action. I think it's fair to say that a top 8 would be achievable. I don't want to be one of these fans that comes on and says top 6 absolutely, but I think it would be a hope. But then every team hopes surely that they're going to go up. Expectation-wise, I think a top 10, top 8 finish would be a huge achievement for Lincoln City, given our place in the budget table. My thoughts on where Birmingham need to watch out this weekend. I'm not going to be so arrogant as to say that Birmingham needs to watch out for anything, because there are 23 teams in this division and Birmingham City. I think that's realistic. And I would say, don't underestimate us, but you're not going to go into any games to be underestimating as well. I think that we have got good forwards. I think that we may not create the most amount of chances, but we create quality chances. We're happy to let other teams have possession. So I just think Birmingham just have to be on their toes. But I would hope that for 90% of the games at this level, irrespective of how good Birmingham City's players are, that would be the case anyway. Do we have any single specific threat? Am I going to point to one flying winger like Peter Bradou with Kwame Poku? No, because that's not Lincoln City. We don't have individuals. We've got a squad of 24 senior professionals, all of whom are capable of doing damage in League One, but none of who particularly stand out head and shoulders as an outstanding player. We're a team unit, so just going to have to be careful all over the field. My thoughts on where Birmingham are dangerous. Firstly, in the transfer market, don't want to be cliched, but obviously, big spenders. I don't say that negatively. You live within your means. Birmingham City are a huge club with no right to be, in League One. Really, they should be much higher. So, spending money that you have on players that are better than everybody else is a reasonable tactic. It didn't work for Sunderland. It didn't work for Ipswich. Derby probably struggled with it a little bit, but at the moment Birmingham are making it happen. The obvious picks are Alfie May and Jay Stansfield. I really like Williamson. From what I've seen, I think he's quality. But how do you go about picking out specific threats from a squad like Birmingham City? Your squad is top 10 championship quality, and you're playing in League One against the haves and the have-nots. So there's going to be threats all over the field. Specifically, when are you dangerous? Well, final third with the ball on the floor probably, but we're defensively one of the best teams in the division as well. So it's going to be absolutely intriguing. But to pick out a specific threat again is really, really difficult. My prediction for the fixture changes on an hourly basis. So we were privileged enough as a podcast to be down at the training ground today with Michael Skabala. I'm not giving you any inside information to ruin the fixture. But I came away from that thinking we can win this fixture. I'm now sat in the pub enjoying a Diet Coke afterwards, thinking a draw would be a decent result. And when I go to bed tonight, I think Birmingham City are so far ahead of everyone in the division that we'll be lucky to keep it down to 3. Honest prediction, I am going to go for a draw because I am an eternal optimist, and that is the closest to optimism I think that I can be without being unrealistic.
So that was Gary from the Stacey West podcast. It was Stacey West, wasn't it? Got that right?
Yes, that is a stand. That's one of the
stand.
stands. Yeah.
Do you know what? I quite like it every week that we get these people on from these other podcasts. Apart from that Peterborough Belland, everyone's quite level-headed and I was going to say humble. It's not humble, is it? What's the word? Respectful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which again, social media is a stark contrast to that. It's everyone seems very real when they come on to talk to us. It's we haven't got a Ben Blues breakdown this week, so I've looked on who scored, and I've looked at what Lincoln's strengths are: counter-attacks, shooting from direct free kicks, finishing scoring chances, creating scoring chances. So they're good at creating, they're good at scoring, good at counter-attacks.
Which is mad because they have about 25% possession every game. So they don't have the ball very often, but when they do, they obviously are quite dangerous with it.
Counter-attacks, long ball, through balls. Something that counter-attacks are something that we've said
quite good at, and it's obviously the sound. They're quite good at the back. There's a lot of similarity. I mean, I can't confess I've watched a lot of Lincoln City, but it feels and sounds a lot like the similarities between the way they play and the way Wrexham have been playing, where they get from back to front very, 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 very quickly. They'll create good chances and they tend to score. They tend to score them when they do get them. So It's an interesting one. Away from home, I mean, you want to go out there and win every single game, don't you? It is one of those that has me a little bit concerned because we're going to be missing Bielik. We've got players coming back from international duty. I think Stansfield is out as well. So I don't think he even ended up going to England, or at least may have got injured in a training session earlier. But he didn't feature at all in their under 21 squads. So little bit of a concern there. Although I mean, I'm happy enough having Alfie May up top if he goes down that route. We might not see Villain.
It might open up that opportunity and answer that question or pose that question and an answer to it. How do you solve a problem like Alfie May? Just play him up top.
just play him where he plays his best. But
do you know who their keeper was to start the season?
G-Cock, wasn't it?
Yeah,
they signed him. He played again. No, he didn't start the season. I think he signed. Not start the season. And he's played a few games. Yeah, he did all right apparently from what I'd read about him.
Stick him in.
Decent move. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
I still think he's going to be a good goalkeeper. I always said he was going to be a good goalkeeper. I think he lost his way a bit at Blues and got injured a couple of times. I just think it just knocked his confidence. A change has done him the world of good, and obviously playing League One football now. So good luck to him. So Bradley Peacock-Fowl sounds like he might be having an operation on his shoulder, so we might not be seeing him for a little while. So it looks like we're going to have Allsop in goal, which is fair enough. Let's just stop punting it long, Ryan. He's just sometimes
and everyone.
Yeah. No Bielik. So are we assuming that Taylor Gardner, Hickman, Clara, and Cochrane are locks for now? Certainly with Samstead being away on international.
Yep.
Yeah,
I think so.
So it's between Davies and Sanderson. With the balance, Davies gives you the balance, doesn't he? But I quite like Sanderson back there, Tim and Clark.
The pace is like the pace of counter attacks is what's going to undo Davis, and we've seen that a couple of times. And it wouldn't surprise me if they go the Sanderson route just to have a bit of extra pace. Not that he's rapid, but that a little bit of extra pace. Yep.
And obviously we know Clara's not the quickest, although he does seem to keep up with people more now. He's got used to the speed of the game here again. But what we've tended to do as well in games that
where we're expecting teams to counter attack it, because since we spoke about it and we said like it's a bit concerning, it could be our Achilles heel. Since we've sort of realised that teams that are going to do that and prepared for it, I've noticed that we actively, like, as soon as we lose possession, we respond very quickly to getting back and getting bodies back behind, and we haven't really been caught out. There's been a couple of sort of wide opportunities to cut the ball across, but generally we've coped with it quite well. That's famous last words, isn't it? Why the fuck did I say that?
Are we gonna assume that Leonard plays instead of Peck after his long flight back from?
I mean, he's got time. He's had time. You'd have thought he's got days to get back over it.
When's he back? He's not back till tomorrow or Thursday, is it?
Well, I don't know.
We play on Saturday, don't we? So
there's time though.
But it's not that long.
It's time though.
One day, essentially, really. If he comes back on the Thursday, 1 day and a bit. And he's played, hasn't he, as well? Like, and the other players have had a little bit of rest, excluding Shrewsbury. So,
but
I think we might see Leonard in there with Iwata on Saturday, at least at the start.
I think I don't know. But this is a great conundrum to have.
It's also the reason why we've got a
thinking,
large squad, isn't it? So,
yeah. To be able to do it. Well, but so that's where I would have used him against Charlton. I would have used Leonard then.
I absolutely would have, but I didn't really. I mean, looking back, yes, at the time it's like no, because I didn't realise how tired those players were going to be looking at that point. But it's probably given Davies a bit of food for thought for future games where he does have to try and mix it up a little bit more and not just be as rigid with his starting 11. So it'll be interesting to see what he does, because I think it's key. You've also got to figure out, like, are Lincoln going to try and copy the Charlton blueprint as well?
Or do they just do what they're good at? Because obviously people will look at that Charlton thing, they're like, this is a way we can stop Birmingham from playing, and every team's going to try that at some point, even if it doesn't work for like 20 minutes, 25 minutes, they'll revert to another plan. But equally though, Lincoln are 4th in the league this season.
Right, 3rd or 4th, yeah.
Mansfield 3rd, Lincoln 4th. They finished 8th, just outside the playoffs, I think, last season, or 7th or 8th. Just missed out last season. So they're, for me, I reckon that they might look at it and go, do you know what, we can take the game to them in the way that we play. Mm-hmm. Rather than trying to replicate what
they're at
else has
home,
done.
So I guess maybe the onus is made. Also, Charlton are at home, aren't they? But I guess the onus is on them to go out and just do what they tend to be good at. And
if they're a good counter-attacking side, then there's that, for me, that would suggest that there's every reason to carry on going like that. If you've seen us play,
it's probably worth mentioning as well that they don't have a lot of the ball against a lot of these teams. So the Mansfields they've played, and the Cambridge United and Peterborough, they've had about 25-30% possession, which is normal for them. But actually, we are probably much harder to get the ball off than those teams. They might let us have. We can probably cause more damage to them than a lot of the teams they've let have that possession. So there's probably a slightly different dynamic there.
Yeah,
I'm intrigued by the three behind what I assume is going to be Alfie May, unless he goes with Dykes, but I don't think he will. Is Scott Wright earned the start in the league?
I think so. But then you could look at any of them and say, well, deserves a game, deserves to play. I think
he's developed a bit of a decent relationship down that right hand side with Gardner Hickman as well. So they interlink quite nicely. And for a right footer, he comes inside quite a lot as well, doesn't he? Which is kind of unique to see.
Do you know what though? I thought that Sampson has looked quite good down that right hand side. We just look dangerous
when he comes on. He's looked all right. Yeah,
considering that he was meant to be the more conservative fullback, he's got forward a few times and put some decent crosses.
He did get an assist, didn't he, as well?
Yeah. So it's like we've just got quality all over, and like these breaks, we say before the breaks when it was running, you were like, it's difficult to pick that team. Because you think, is he going to bring him in? Is he going to bring him in? And he went very consistent with his squad, with his team. Whereas now, there's a few players that you like, but they've had that Shrewsbury game. There's had the international break. Like, who are we going to be playing? Yeah. And there's genuinely, for me, Williamson's got to come back in. I just think he's started to really grow and come into his own.
Yeah, it wasn't for us. Much like many of the players, he was just not on it against Charlton. But hopefully he's gone away and had a good international break. That's obviously a much shorter flight than Peck. So yeah, would you look at playing him as a number 10 then?
I think that's his best. That's his best position for me.
He kind of just floats around there, doesn't he? Anyway, because of the way we play, because you've always got the right back playing quite high anyway, that it means he can move inside and cause a bit of damage anyway. So it's quite fluid, really. So ultimately, I don't think it really matters where it looks like he's supposed to be playing, because he's probably not going to play there
and just float around. Yeah. I think we had mentioned that a few times on the podcast before as well, haven't we? That the players that we've got up there now, they can pretty much all move around and switch and rotate. So it can be very dangerous for that reason as well.
So for me, because I think Anderson probably, I wouldn't be surprised if he started. Emil Hansen, now he's got his first goal as well. I don't know, it was just pretty much a tap in, but hopefully that gives him a little bit of confidence, because he has looked better as the last few weeks have gone on. It's as you say, it's a nice problem to have. I mean, for me, I'm probably looking at Allsop, Taylor Gardner-Hickman, Clara, Sanderson, Cochrane, Iwata, Leonard, Wright, Williamson, Hansen, May. I think that's what I'd probably go with. I think.
Who did you say before Williamson?
Wright, Williamson, Hansen.
Yeah. I think I'd probably.
I think Wright's probably. He still feels more to me like a bit of an impact sub though. I know he started against Shrewsbury and he scored 2, but he still feels to me like his best work will be done off the bench. There's just something about him.
Yeah. Right, I'll tell you what, we're going to get some predictions in.
Go on then.
And we're going to get the vegans first. But obviously, he's not with us.
Yeah.
Not as in, like, he's only at a gig.
He's passed.
So we're going to generate the vegan score using this random number generator. Okay. So going up to 999.
Okay.
So
have you got a player thing, selection thing as well?
No. He'll just go Alfie May. Because he'd just go Alfie May, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
So, right, this is Lincoln score. 48. Oh. So 177-48 for the vegan. The goal difference a world of good, wouldn't it? I could have taken that down for 9 or something, but it's just comedic effect. Why not? Right, yours?
I'm going to go 1-1.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You're going with Gary.
I'm the sort of same as him. I don't... This game bothers me a little bit. I think the Charlton game is maybe it'll give teams a little bit of confidence to see how they can try and suppress the way we play. In the back of my head, I'm like, it could be like another 3-1, like similar to the Wrexham game. I think there's elements of the way they play, by the sounds of it, to the way Wrexham play, and it wouldn't surprise me if it just ended up like that. We just completely dominated. Well, I think with them being at home and being quite a good, a well drilled team, I'm gonna go 1-1, and probably regret it. Hopefully, regret it.
I'm going to go 4-0 because I didn't have it for the Shrewsbury game. It's got to come in at some point. So I'm going to go 4-0. Did you say a scorer? No, you didn't.
No, I think it's Alfie May time again.
I've just remembered the last time that we did predictions. I got Williamson.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. And then it was Stansfield that was an own goal and Bielik that was an own goal. So you two got no.
Oh, it was a Bielik shoulder arm, wasn't it? Really?
Classed as an own goal. Went down as an own goal, didn't it? So, and no one said Bielik anyway. So, go on. What did you say then?
No, I think I had 4-2, didn't I? I wasn't far off 4-2 actually. But yeah, I can't remember who I had it. But I'm going to go for Alfie May. I think.
So you and the vegan for Alfie May.
Alfie May, yeah. I'll just stick with 1-1. Just
locked in.
Yeah, I hope we win, obviously, but I'm going to go with 1-1.
Right. Okay. Right. Just before we wrap it up, I've been doing my best as a parent. So we've got to bring this on to it before we say goodbye. My daughter has learnt a new phrase. So I'll see you all in Lincoln, hopefully, if my ticket turns up. Safe journey, safe travels, and until next time, keep right on.
Keep right on.
to you by on Boulevard.